So how can I help you all?
Absolutely. I have a few questions, but also I don't know if Debbie, you want to go first with any of your questions.
No, I'll let you go first because you might ask my question. And then I could go,
Okay.
I already know. So go ahead. You were here first. You get first dibs.
Okay, thank you. So these are questions specifically for the non-congregate
Okay,
application.
great.
Um, okay, first question is, I know it's due Friday. Is it due 4 p.m. Friday or 5 p.m. Friday?
I think like 5 p.m. Friday. Yeah.
5 p.m. Okay.
Yep.
It's due this Friday or is it next Friday?
This Friday. Next Friday is the supportive services due date.
Okay, I'm doing supportive service. I was panicking because I thought it was not panicking, but my goal was this Friday. And then I looked and I said, supportive services is the 25th. What? So, all right,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, but also, Debbie, let me get back to you on that due date because it could be moved forward if you want, depending on where you're located. Let me finish with Annie and then we'll cover
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then there's like two different sections that are for your shelter operations and services plan, and then referrals to services. And you need to list out those agencies. Do you, do you,
Right. Right.
do you
Mhm.
have to have MOUs for each of those agencies?
So really, okay, so if you look at, so to the, because I know you sent in this question too. If you look at the answer, there is a part in the NOFO that basically says those that are a part of the like inner workings and the, the making sure that the non-congregate shelter is part of the, is operating, I guess, or it's like involved. So those other agencies, if they're involved, if they're referral agencies, like people you send people to, you're not going to need an MOU. But if they're actively involved in the, programming and
Got it.
operations of your organization, then yeah, like if they're really involved. So, but if they're just a referral entity, then you don't need to worry about it. And if you don't have an MOU, we definitely we want to show that you're, that who you're serious with and who you have those agreements with. If you don't have one, but you plan on getting one, it's okay for you guys to write that. Just,
Okay.
you just state, or if you have a template, of what you intend there. I can't think of the words are not coming to me right now, but your list of what your agreed upon activities are between each agency. If you guys are in the midst of, coming to terms on what that looks like, of what each party is going to do, then that's something you can note as well. So just, I mean, honestly, it's better to be more thorough than not have anything. And if you, so I would add something versus not. Now, we are going to stick to, however, let me have a little caveat there, because there's parts of both of the applications that limit the number of narratives that are there. Really kind of stick to that because we can't read 10 pages per narrative because it just takes a long time and we don't have a ton of time. So there is a point of being, very specific and laser in your answers, but also being comprehensive, so, just find that balance for what it looks like for your non-congregate shelter or supportive services for that matter, and just really the agencies that are, intimately, involved and really, participating. So for example, I know with Partners for Home, you guys have done some partnerships with Mercy Care with some of the things that you've done. So if they're playing an active role in the non-congregate shelter, then yeah, it's a pretty good idea for you to have an MOU or at least begin those conversations with them.
Got it. But totally understand that. So anyone who is like operating at the shelter, providing those like very core services, but if we're referring someone to a workforce development agency, we don't need an MOU for that.
That's
Okay,
exactly
cool.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because then that's just too much. Like that's just way too much. Yeah. No, and I totally agree. Like, we don't want to overdo it, but we definitely want to know if there's, like I said, those organizations that are participating in your with your organization on site. So
Okay, great.
You understand, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Okay. I have 2 more questions.
Okay, bring it. I'm pulling up the application right now for the NOFO, so that's what I'm looking at. So keep talking. I'm looking it up.
For the tab that says referrals, referral agencies, or the process for referrals, is it okay if we say like we are going to work with these 4 shelters to receive our referrals? Or
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. Um, so the difference between, okay, so there's the referral entities for the 4 QPs to your shelter. I know we fully understand that mainly homeless individuals and probably individuals who are fleeing domestic violence and similar situations will be coming to a non-congregate shelter because it makes no sense for someone who is already housed to go to a shelter. But HUD's been really kind of wonky around these referrals services, and so we want to just make sure that we're clear. So just it would be great to have, if you have a few different agencies who are going to be referring to at least 2 that you're working with locally, to get referrals into your units. If you're referring out, that's just a general idea to know that you're covering most things that need to be that you're overseeing, as far as making sure people are getting the help they need. And in some part, if you notice for our applications, that's consistent with all of the applications. And in part, that's for some of the properties who are developing for the rental housing to just start thinking outside of their development into what's happening in the community. So it's
Okay.
both. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then last one, for the documentation of marketing and outreach in compliance with fair housing,
Yeah.
are we supposed to use the like HUD fair marketing document and fill that out as an attachment?
It's not a requirement, but that could be a way that you do it. I think just having some sort of documentation that shows that you're actively letting the community know what you have available. Because again, those referral sources, so the places that refer into, households to your entity, whether it be non-congregate shelter, supportive service, rental housing unit, they want to make sure that everyone knows about it and that you're getting the right referrals. So if you look on HUD, hopefully it's still there because it was a really good clinic, but HUD did several clinics on referral resources and making sure that you had access to all the resources in your communities and documenting those. So that's why we're being kind of extra on this particular area, is because HUD was extra with us.
Okay. Okay.
Does that
Thank
help?
you. Mhm.
Okay, good. Any other questions, Annie?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So Debbie, I know that you were next. What I was going to say about the supportive services. So as you all know, we have end of day, so end of work day, 5:00, non-congregate shelter is due day after tomorrow. So it's the 18th. So hopefully it'll all be a really good Friday for you all. So there's that. Monday, the 21st, would be the final day that a non-participating jurisdiction for HOME-ARP entities can submit. So that's the location where you're giving out the services, cannot be in a HOME-ARP participating jurisdiction. So there's a list of those on the website. And we can go through those if you need to, but they're pretty standard with entitlement communities and PJ, like home PJs, with a few one-offs, but we can talk about that if you're questioning it. And then, so that's for the non-PJs, and then everyone can, for all jurisdictions, whole state, turning it in on the 25th for the round for everyone to review. and those will be ranked. So those that are due Monday have to pass a certain threshold in order to get selected. And then everyone else goes into the main pool and they'll be ranked by their application. So,
Okay, so here's my question. For the supportive services, we're going to apply for expanding, well, not expanding, for creating a region with coordinated entry
great.
into 4 different counties. So it's Clayton, Fayette, Henry, and Spalding.
Okay.
Now, with those, the what did you call that? The non-participating, or 3 of those counties, I believe, are the ones that I can apply early for,
Yeah.
but
So just
Clayton isn't, right?
right. That's correct. Yeah.
So that means I have to do 2 separate applications?
But you can just yes, you'd have to do 2 separate technically. But a lot of the information, I'm guessing, Debbie,
It'll be the same, like, I'm
should be the same.
basically
Like
gonna
the
submit the same
should be the
grants.
same.
Right, because
Yeah,
it is one
that's fine.
project, but if okay,
We
so
just have
I'm
to
good
score them
there.
differently. We just have to score them differently based on location. And again, we're just trying to make sure that, the smaller entities have a shot at getting some funding. And so we just wanted to be able to offer that up a little bit, and
Mhm.
give a little bit of a running start for them. That's all. So,
Sure.
yeah.
And it is 50,000 per county, correct? With 250,000 per agency, correct? That hasn't changed.
Um, well, it's 250,000 max per ask. So that could be one county, it could be many counties. It really depends on how really that's up to you, Debbie.
Oh, I thought it was that that you guys had changed it, and the cap it was only 50,000 per county. Is that right or no?
Minimum. As far as I know, it's
Oh,
not
that's the minimum?
yeah,
Okay.
that's the minimum. Yeah.
And then what is the max?
250,000 dollars.
But is it 250,000 per agency?
Um, yes.
Okay, so let me ask this. If I, as an agency, I can apply for up to 250,000. If I'm doing those 4 counties, I understand I have to split it because I'm doing 2 different things, but can I apply for a total of 250,000, or am I limited just to 200,000?
50,000, that's fine. Yeah. It doesn't
I can
have to
do
be
the 2.
50. Yeah, you can spread it out however you want to. You just need to tell us
Okay.
why and how you want to do it. So yeah.
Okay, that's good because I need more in the counties that have nothing, and a little bit, I
Yeah.
can,
Yeah,
that'll help me. Okay.
absolutely.
eh,
We are not honestly, I mean, I'm pulling it up. And so if you guys have you have very great specific questions. And Jody's unable to be on this particular hour. So it's really just me. And so um I'm gonna look it up in case we need to, and we may need to come back and answer it later on. But we were not that prescriptive. We wanted you guys to have the rope to kind of do what you need. And HOME-ARP allowed us to have some of that rope, whereas some of the other grants don't allow that. And
yeah.
so and that's how they're structured with HUD. It's not even a DCA necessary kind of thing.
Mhm.
So that's, so that's kind of where we're coming from. So I hope that helps. So you just
Yeah.
show us what you need and where you want what, and just the reason why. Like, so the thing is like you can say we want to have $250,000. That's great, but you're going to have to show us why. That's why we have the data. That's why we have so you're going to have to explain. We definitely want to see your reasoning behind it. But yeah, that's good.
Okay, good. That lets us do more of what we really need to do. So I appreciate that. Now,
What you to do?
the other spot where I have the one of the counties, Spalding County, I do not have space in. I've got a partnership in Henry and I got a partnership in Fayette because we've done work there. But we definitely are going to get those partnerships. Like I don't have a partnership that I can have an MOU that says this can be your location and and stuff. Um, Part of the problem is I don't think there's not a lot of services in Spalding County. So Henry County has kind of taken care of Spalding County in the past. Is that like if I explain that, you kind of answered it when you were talking earlier, but I want to make sure on this. If I show that and show that we have that ability to get it and I don't have a signed MOU, will be okay?
Yeah. I mean, I think again, just proving what you need and your plan to get there. I think that your outreach for coordinated entry is a little bit different than supportive services. So let's use an example. I like to use the childcare example. Like if you're offering childcare with this program, like you're going to have an actual building that's providing the childcare. So it's where that building is located, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you're asking for in the county where you're asking. Or if the agency is, in the middle of a participating jurisdiction, but they're serving people from around, they're still in the middle of the participating jurisdiction. We're really trying to get kind of things funded outside of those PJs. So just to offer more parts of the state to be able to have, give access to people. So if someone is living in, like you were saying, Henry County, they can actually go to a place closer to them in Henry County to get services versus going to a bigger place in order to get services. It would be great to offer that service in Henry County. So, so that's kind of just the mindset around it. So do you see the difference? But for outreach, your whole purpose is to expand in order to create that structure which doesn't exist. So, yeah, I totally understand how in Spalding you're not going to have a building yet, but you may at the end of your time with receiving home
We
ARP.
will.
Yeah.
Now
So
that's
that's the
that's the
goal.
goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
So that's
definitely.
perfect. We love
And
it. Love
okay,
it.
good. Because we're looking at going in, bringing coordinated entry, and starting out with street outreach. And
Great.
this is going to give us that time to really develop it. And then by the end, I mean, my goal is at the end of the year, there's another agency there or like
Let's partner.
somebody else, and then they'll partner
Yeah.
with us,
Yeah.
because then
Perfect.
maybe the county goes for the DCA, grant,
Yeah.
and then they can subcontract with us, or we can oversee and help some other agents. Like I'm not trying to take over the world. I just want to help the world. So,
Yeah, and we want to,
oh,
and getting seed funding to help that. So that's what the funding is to be used for. Yeah, one of the ways, one of the many ways. So yeah, that
okay,
sounds great. Yeah, I
all
look forward
right,
to seeing the
and
application.
I think, oh, that there's one form in there that it like says your partners on like grant govern or federal oversight and attorneys, and with us doing this, I mean, is that something like
That's
if we're
what.
doing supportive services, is that like I mean, we have an attorney, but we don't have an attorney that I have talked to specifically that's going to help us with
So
this
for those,
project.
for right, so for the federal oversight or attorneys or things like that, that's just extra information. So if you don't have the person, and if you notice at the top it says if this does not apply to you, just put NA.
Gotcha. I
It
just want to
says at
make
the
sure.
top, so just put NA. So
Okay, that's kind
yeah,
of what I was hoping. Okay,
and we just
all right.
wanted, so then, right, so, and the reason why it's starred for us to know is we would just want to know if you do or don't have someone in those roles. And you don't have to, it's not required if you look through the whole NOFA. You having an attorney is not a requirement to receive the funding. It just lets us know, if you have coverage in different areas or the federal oversight, that may be something where if you don't have the federal oversight, like a person whose job it is to make sure that you're in compliance with all of the HUD regulations and things, which is not mandated, um, then we know kind of what we need to do in order to, help guide you in some right directions and making sure. And it may be something that we recommend in the future for you if your agency is really struggling, but it's not a mandate. So it just put NA. Yeah.
Okay, because I was like, we do that all internally, and we have our auditor, and we have it. Like I said, we do have attorneys, but not
Yeah.
necessarily just to do that one grant. So,
It's
okay,
already built into your structure. That's great.
right. Okay, I think that's all I had. So I'll be quiet now. Thank you so much. I'm gonna
Great.
listen though.
Y'all are good. Okay. Well, and and one of the focuses, as y'all know, is for outreach um for supportive services, just because we want to build up the coordinated entry system in the whole state. So that's great. I'm glad you guys took a beat, took a note on that, and take a note. That's awesome. Any other questions? I know I saw you, Courtney, pop on a little bit ago. Good to see your
Yeah.
name.
How are you doing?
Good. I don't know as far as like, who in order. So I just know I think I saw you come on fourth, but I could be wrong. So yeah. So whoever wants to go next.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
I had a quick question. So I already sent questions into the Q&A portal. Is it okay that I ask them here, or should I just wait for y'all? Okay.
Nope. Ask them here. That's great.
So this is kind of a specific question about MOUs. So if we have an existing agreement with an agency, but we don't call it an MOU, we call it like a collaboration agreement, but it outlines the roles and responsibilities. Is that okay to consider it as an MOU, or like are y'all really strict on that?
Nope. Just send it. That's fine.
Love it.
We're
Okay.
not strict. No.
Okay.
We just
And
want to
then,
know if you have an agreement, what that looks like. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then if we're building a partnership with another agency, but we haven't formalized it yet, is that something that we could do in like a letter of commitment where they agree to sign an MOU if awarded? Okay.
Perfect. That's great. Yeah, just so, and like I stated before with Annie, just as long as we kind of get an idea of what the structure is as far as who's agreeing to what in that agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you guys have that and kind of outline out what you plan to do, yeah, that's good. Just to let us know. And a part of it, guys, is just, and y'all have written grants and maybe have read grants, I'm not sure, but y'all know that, it's just to see how much planning and thought you're putting into it, what's the structure you're doing, just to make sure, because sometimes, when we don't think through these things, then you end up having an issue from down the
Yeah.
road. And, we just want to make sure that you guys are kind of processing and thinking through these and really being strategic with using the funding. So yeah, that's great.
Okay. And then where that should be located in the application, would you prefer like a letter of commitment where they're agreeing to sign on to MOU in the future? Should that go with the MOUs, or would you prefer that to stay with all the letters?
Put them with the MOUs, that's fine. And upload them
Okay.
as like, you can do it in one single upload, all the MOUs together if you want, or you can separate them out. It depends on what you're asking for. So
Mhm.
if it's applicable toward a specific service, so if you're asking for like several different activities for supportive services, or this could also be applied to if you're doing non-congregate shelter and applying for the optional supportive services. I would probably do it by service. So then that way, because you guys got to think that when we're reading it, we're reading a lot of different applications and everything, we're only human. So we try and keep everything as separate as possible. So making it as easy for us to read and understand is a really, really good thing. So when you just kind of throw everything at us and just say they'll figure it out, then that means that we have to take the time to figure it out. And there may be
Mhm.
something that we'll miss. So if you want to, so packaging it up the best for us to understand what you're trying to say. So that may be by county. Okay, that may be one of the options. Like this is everything we want to do at this county, and you have like 3 or 4 different sites. Okay, that's one way. There may be another way of by activity. We're asking for this activity, and this activity. And these are all the MOUs that we have, but they're serving all 3 of these sites. That's fine too. But like I said, it just make it easy for us to read. That's pretty much the end goal, is you want us to be able to comprehend everything that you're trying to do. And so
Okay.
whatever way to make that the easiest, we really appreciate.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to, I noticed in some parts of the supportive services application that there was a character limit listed, but then in some sections there weren't. If there is not a character limit listed, should we assume that there is no character limit?
There's no character limit, but so and you're talking about in the Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Excel spreadsheet tends to generally make their character limit. There's only so far that it'll stretch. Um, but yeah, for the most part, we're not going to be super, you know, honestly, we want you guys to get your point across in a comprehensive fashion.
Hmm.
However, again, like I stated before, you know, for a narrative, if we ask for 3 pages and you write 12, that's way too much.
Right.
So again, you know, be as laser as you can, but also comprehensive.
Okay.
So, if you guys go to 1,002 words or characters, we're not going to count. It's fine. But, if you're writing a book, then that's probably going to get in the way of us, because again, we have a lot to read. We're trying to get this done really as fast as possible. And so helping us in that would be great.
Okay. Understood.
That, yeah. So we're not going to get that picky on it, but,
Mhm.
but we also ask that you try and keep it, as tightened up as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. And then my last question, well, I have like one and a half questions. My when you want us to define if a board member was homeless or formerly homeless,
Yeah.
is there like a specific definition that you use to define what homeless, formerly homeless means, or
Well, for people with lived experience, it's just important that they understand. I mean,
yeah.
so if you wanna, I mean, no, we're not sticking to the HUD's original definition of homelessness with people living in a place not meant for human habitation versus
Okay.
someone who is living on a couch. I just, but I really, uh, yeah, I mean, use good judgment there.
Hmm.
Um, so, however, I mean, it's just that can end up being a slippery slope,
Yeah.
like many things. So I would probably stick to someone who is as close to the original definition of homelessness as
Hmm.
possible. But if, they've been really unstably housed for a long time and finally, it clicks and they're doing okay and it may have been a mix of everything, that's great. So, I mean, it's again, um, just try and get as close to it as possible.
Okay.
Um, but yeah.
And does that only apply to the individual, or does it count for a direct family member to have been affected in that way?
Could be. I mean, I guess it would really depend on the direct family member. I know that there
Okay.
are a lot of families who have, and y'all know sometimes parents and, brothers and sisters know the best way to house their family member than the agency does because they look at it and they like my sister comes up with my parents, they're older, and she knows exactly what they need in order to make sure my parents get through a an appointment well. Like even having a
Hmm.
pillow, my mom was telling me last night, a pillow for when she gets this thing done with her leg, and stuff. And so um sometimes family members know more. So I really, again, just use good judgment.
Okay.
um, yeah, so I think it depends on the family member really, and yeah. So if you're doing it, let me put it this way, if you're doing it just to check a box,
Hmm.
then, you know, someone who's really giving good insight as a person with lived experience, I think that's the most important thing. We wanna know that you're
Yeah.
getting good input. If you're doing it
Hmm.
just to check a box, that's not why we're asking for someone with lived experience to be on your board.
Right. Understood. And then my last question was, I kind of wanted to go back to what Annie had asked about that the marketing documentation.
Yeah.
And you said that we could use the HUD form. The HUD form is kind of a beast.
Yeah.
And so we're open to doing that form, but I didn't know if there was like specific questions you needed answered for that documentation. I think you mentioned that you just want to show that the community
Yeah.
knows about it and it's available to them. But is there anything else in that documentation that you want to know outside of that?
I really appreciate you guys. Yeah, with that particular area, we weren't sure, especially with the changes in the requirements at the federal level, how to address those particular
Yeah.
things. I think something if
And if you need time to answer that, that is totally fine. And sorry to put you on the spot.
yeah, no, it's fine. But that's why we do the office hours too, because I think, you get more in the conversation than sometimes, just the back and forth with the Q&As. You all need an answer too. Filling out as much of I guess if you're going to do something separate from the HUD form, at least look at the HUD form to get an idea for what they're looking for. So if you look at the whole
Okay.
HUD form, there's like areas of, do you have something in your lobby? Yes or no? What that looks like. I don't know if it talks about tenant selection plans, but I know that when we were looking at them on our end for the rental housing, like LIHTC stuff, we were looking at tenant selection plans too. So and then there's a whole section around data and making sure you're looking at the demographic of the area and how you're reaching out to other populations that may not necessarily be reflected in who's originally applying to your units. So I would probably take that as an inspiration, using it as an
Okay.
inspirational document.
Mhm.
And you don't necessarily have to do all, I think it ends up sometimes being like 20 or 30 pages. You don't have to do necessarily all 20 or 30 pages of that. But if you wanted to do, parts of the HUD form that show that you're really trying to do some good affirmative marketing in your area for your development,
Mhm.
and so that is great. Or if you want to do a separate document that you take some of the questions from the HUD form and answer separately, that's fine too.
Okay.
So because we gave you no structure on that, it's a good question. And so we can't necessarily give you structure now, 3 days before it's due.
Right.
But I would definitely use the HUD form to kind of use as an inspiration document to be like, okay, this is kind of where we're going with this. Because we just,
Mhm.
again, we want to make sure that, um, everyone who could use the non-congregate shelter or the supportive service knows about it. And so often, and y'all know this, there ends up being certain places of communication where the information about the service or shelter gets put into this main space. We want to make sure it's accessible to even more people if we can. So that's,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. I know Crystal asked a question too. So, well, Courtney, is there any other questions? Because you said thank you, so I
Mm-mm.
assumed you were done. Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Crystal asked in the chat, is it $250,000 per agency total, or can we divide up projects in different counties and get separate grants? You could try to definitely divide up projects in different counties and get separate grants, if that's how you want to move forward in that. That's okay. We didn't say that you can't. Okay. Here's the thing though, is that we are going to look at everything that, you're requesting, and things may be changed. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get all of that for that particular amount of money from all those different in all those different areas. So, and the other thing too, is we're also going to look at capacity. So if typically your agency has only had, you know, $500,000 in $500,000 in funding, and now you're wanting to have another $500,000, we're going to wonder about capacity, and your ability to, um, do the reimbursable grants and AMP up and things like that. So we're not opposed to it. Again, we've kind of left it a little bit open, but we also want you to be thinking logically and responsibly when you're applying. So really try and take a look at your capacity and make sure that it fits. So does that answer your question, Crystal? Okay, great. Perfect. Next question, because we have about 23 minutes left.
I'm April Mahone. I have a
Hey, April.
question.
Yeah,
I'm at the GET meeting, so I met Laura
that's
just a
great.
minute ago. So I was explaining to her, we have an organization, it's a homeless organization, with the city of Albany. So we receive HOME-ARP funds through HUD ourselves. So we was allocated. So right now we're doing rental construction project, multifamily rental construction project, and
It's
our
really nice. It's
population.
beautiful, by the way. Just saying. You guys are doing a good job with that.
Yes, it's going well. So initially I was gonna ask because the developer wants to do a phase two. And we
Okay.
knew you guys receive a lot of money in home art. But Laura just explained to me that your home art is tied to low income tax credit right now.
It is, yeah. So we're not doing separate grants with our HOME-ARP funding.
So, and we did get awarded for, well, developers in our area got awarded. I think I have two developers. They got awarded for tax credit. Is it too late for them to modify their tax credit application to see if they can get the home art, or has the home art is almost like the other application? Because I know they're due in May 16th
Uh,
or tomorrow.
yeah, so it's a good question. Yes, it's too late, unfortunately. Our rental housing NOFO was due, oh gosh, I think a month ago now. So yeah, it was due a while ago. So rental housing is an option. Non-congregate shelter is an option but that's due on Friday.
Hmm.
So yeah, we can't shift that now.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, and the tax credit for May 16th is just the general tax credit. What we did was we did like a pre-funding option, where developers could apply for gap funding essentially for their whole project,
Hmm.
between $2 and $5 million that they would add to their tax credit development that they're applying for on May 16th. So that's how
You
that all
said,
worked.
oh, okay. So most likely the application you again May 16th going to cover all the funding you had available for the rental
Yeah.
program.
We're planning to kind of spend out all of our money, by the end of, or at least try and get as much of it under contract, within the next 4 6 months. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna have it. We're not gonna have any available for next year.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna keep reviewing your documents to make
Okay.
sure. Okay.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
second question, you said it's $2 to $3 million per application for the gap
Um,
funding.
right, for the gap funding, but that's closed.
Yeah.
So it's not available anymore. It was between $2 and $5 million that the developer could ask for.
Yeah, and the gap funding, that was loans, right? I'm just asking questions after the fact.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was for loans, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, since I was like, a dollar late, a day late, and a dollar short.
They're good.
With
We have
our
supportive services.
with our development, our population, qualified population, is young adults, homeless young adults from 18 to 24. I think that's, or on the, well, no, it's not that. I forgot what it was. I'm sorry, I didn't write it.
Okay.
So I've reviewed it. But one of the organizations that we work here with our coalition, Homeless Coalition, they manage, well, they service the qualified population that we put in our rescue plan. So are they eligible to apply for the service? So
Absolutely.
if
Yeah.
they, okay,
Let's do.
so they can apply for the service grants. And these are grants, or will this be loans to them too?
Nope, they're grants
The
to the
grants
agencies, and yeah, it's due not this Friday, but next Friday. So absolutely.
next Friday. I don't know if they're gonna have that. So is the grants on a rolling basis, or it just after Friday is done?
After Friday, it will be officially done. Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do, April, is I'm going to put, I think I may have put the others already in the chat, but I'm gonna do it again. Here's the NOFA websites for supportive services and then the non-congregate shelter. So if you guys want to take a look at that.
Okay.
And I would say give it a shot no matter what, especially for supportive services. I think it's an opportunity. So
Yes, and we have a partnership with this organization because they service pregnant teens. So the city of Albany has rental property. So we're able to give them housing for those teens, 5 units, and they receive a grant from HUD. And they meet the qualifying population. So they don't stay there the whole time. So they stay there for so many years or so,
yeah,
because they age out. And they always find some teens that they can services, and they're in their own apartment. So
great.
would that help? Even though it's not HOME-ARP, it's not related to a HOME-ARP project, but
Yeah.
it is a program to assist homeless teens.
Yeah, the supportive services are available to really almost any agency that serves any of the 4 QPs, really.
Okay.
And if they are very specific in the population they serve, they actually do need to open it up to everyone. So they may serve youth, but those services need to be available to the whole community if they
Mhm.
only get the supportive services as a grant and it's not tied to a HOME-ARP development.
Okay.
And um, so that would be the only, and you have to just, this is mainly for housing, but
Mhm.
HUD has been very, again, verbal around protected classes. So making sure that individuals with disabilities, um, any people with families are able to get housing. There's no specific housing by gender. It doesn't obviously say anything about age, if I'm not mistaken, with protected classes, but that's been something that's kind of come up with regards to the
Mhm.
housing aspect. So just know that if they're doing supportive services, they may have to go outside of their predetermined um, population in order
Population.
to,
Mhm.
yeah, to just
Have the
serve.
service. Yeah. So
Right,
not really house the people, but serve the people.
right,
Provide their services to those people, so they don't have to
right,
worry about housing people outside of
yeah,
their population, but
right,
they can provide services to those. Okay, and I
yeah,
think they do that now because they receive grant money from DCA on the homeless side.
right, yeah.
Um, yeah, and street outreach, and also ESG funding. So
That's great.
okay.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I will talk to the director today and see if She's good at grant writing. So we'll talk to her today, see if she can get this application done within a week and see
Sounds
if they're
great.
able to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, April. Hey. I got a little less than 15 minutes. Anyone else have any questions? You guys have been asking some really good ones though, so that's awesome. Well, while we're waiting for questions to come up, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. So this is the notice of funding for non-congregate shelter. The main documents are going to be right here, which includes the emphasis registration and collector portal. A quick show of hands, has anyone had any difficulty with emphasis? Let me maybe change my question. Has everyone been okay with emphasis? Just raise your hand if you're totally cool with emphasis. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's really great. Okay. How many of you have not logged into emphasis? Maybe the others. Okay. So I would try logging in now. So go on to, and this is on both of the websites for emphasis. This is how we're receiving our applications. I would probably even try to upload and do some of these application pieces, because tomorrow is going to be our last office hours. It's at 4 o'clock tomorrow. So I'm trying to get y'all before we're closed on Friday, and we're going to have some contingencies available for technical assistance if need be, but we just want to make sure that y'all are good. So Debbie and April, I don't know if you guys have questions or if you are just letting us know about your emphasis.
Oh, no, it was just letting you know about emphasis. So
Perfect.
far,
Okay.
so good.
Okay, great. So practice if you can. So Debbie, I'm going to put your hand, or oh, you put your hand down. Okay, great. So that's great. So just go ahead and put your hand down. So I would log on tomorrow, and actually what I'm going to do is, since y'all are on this call, I'm guessing that you already have the link for tomorrow's office hours, but if you choose to attend tomorrow, it will be at 4 o'clock. If you guys have any last minute, and that's in the chat too, to register. Oh, I can't do that. So definitely call us, and not call us, but call in and let us know if you have any issues. Annie, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I created the login and I was able to get in, but then I'm also working with a grant writer, and I gave her the same information to log in and it's not letting her. It keeps giving her an error. So is there some reason why it's only letting one system log in?
I'm guessing it may be by IP address is my guess. But let me double check. I am not an expert when it comes to this. I mean, okay, so here's the worst case scenario, Annie, or I guess a scenario, maybe not worst case, but if it comes down to it, it's really easy to register. So if it needs to come down to either you or her to submit, she can still register quickly and submit in your stead. If need be, you would just have to repeat the stuff that you've kind of already completed, but thankfully it's not a ton. So, I mean, like the actual pages and things like that. So, but let
Okay,
me
so
actually reach out to our emphasis folks just to see what to do.
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. So I'll include that for tomorrow.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question. I didn't know that that was going to be an issue because I think honestly, I assumed, which as we all know is not the best thing to do, that if you just give them your login and password, it should be fine. So, but I'll ping Kelly and see.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Yes, that's correct. The Affirmative Fair Housing Marketing Plan. That is correct, Courtney. So Courtney's question is the correct form to use as inspiration, the Affirmative Fair Housing Marketing Plan for multifamily housing. And that is true. Yes. And I am sending an email or Teams chat to our person right now. Any other questions? Debbie, you went off mute.
No, I just want to say thank you. You guys have given us so much support on doing this, and it's really nice to work with people that truly view us as partners, and we appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome, Debbie. Yeah, we thank you for saying that. That means a lot because we sure try. At least with from where I sit, we sure try. I can't speak for any other parts of DCA because it's just our little team. That's the three of us and Laura Ann, who's been great, and Sam Carvalho before her. And so we just, yeah, as a former nonprofit person, I get, how important it is to know how each other, what's important on both sides. So you're absolutely welcome. I'm glad that that's coming through actually, because we do try hard. And I know from our last non-congregate shelter, all the trainings with non-congregate shelter in 2023, the intention was for everyone to have like a packet of information that they could take with them in the future. But it ended up being really very comprehensive, but also a lot of information. Okay, so I'm asking that question right now. So Annie, for people who are applying to HOME-ARP using emphasis, uh, there are some having issues with using a grants consultant. Sharing pass. And I'm surprised that this is an issue because this is used by some really large organizations to apply for a tax credit. And our tax credit application has a ton more that they have to like input. So it surprises me that there can't be multiple users for one application. So I'm a little surprised by that.
Okay, I can ask our grant writer to take like a photo of what the error screenshot is and send it in as well.
Okay, that would be great. If
Okay,
you can
thank
email
you.
me that, that would be perfect. Yes. Are there any other questions? We have 4 minutes. And I'm willing to stay longer if people want to talk. I also want to honor y'all's time. Okay, so I'll know hopefully by tomorrow. Kelly's usually good about getting back to us pretty quickly. So. Okay. Since there's no other questions, I'm going to stay on for another 4 minutes or so. Oh, actually, hold on a sec. Annie, wait. She's typing. Those little dots, they are they're great, and yet they're horrible at the same time because you're watching. You're like, what is she typing? So, oh, nope. No, the easiest way though. Okay. Basically, my question to her was, for people who are applying to HOME-ARP using emphasis, there's some having issues with using a grants consultant, sharing parentheses, sharing logins and passwords, multiple users for one application. Is that possible? I have a group getting an error. And she said, no. The easiest way though, I don't like it, is to share common username and password. However, will only route to one email on record. So, that's probably one of the downsides, Annie, with this particular format, is you can't. I think what it does is it notes the IP address, so it's only for that computer that you both can use to have access to emphasis. So that's why you're getting the error. You're not supposed to have multiple users for one application, which I'm sorry, I didn't know that going in. So that said, you guys may have to work together in one form or another. And the other thing too to consider is he or she, I don't know who they are, can just also have a login. And if they end up doing the full application and you just email everything to them and they do it, that's fine too. It doesn't have to be like if you have an unused, what I'm trying to say is if you have an unused application, it's no harm, no foul, essentially.
Okay. So we can only do it on. So that's confusing though, because I thought in Kelly's response, she said the easiest way to do it is share the username and email, which we did, but it recognizes the different IP.
Okay. She said only route to one email on record.
I
She
don't
also
know.
said no. Go ahead, Courtney.
Oh, I was just gonna say we're also sharing an account on my end between two different users, and we are not experiencing that same error.
Okay, so there you go. I was wrong. Thank you, Courtney, for clarifying that.
Now, I don't know if maybe two people are logging in at the same time. Maybe that's creating an issue, but two different users are using the same account, but probably not at the same time.
Okay. Annie, when we log off, could you go ahead and just email me directly the username that you're having an issue with, and I'll send it to Kelly for she's putting in a ticket for information. So,
Yes.
so yeah, sorry, I misunderstood. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Problem.
Bye.
Well, guys, we'll be here tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Have a good day.